Welcome back to another game preview. The bye week has came and went. Hopefully, our Green Bay Packers are better because of it, and we're hoping to bounce back here this week and bringing to you another game preview this week. Traveling to Rocky Mountain High, Colorado, playing the Denver Broncos. We're obviously coming to you live for much more of a traditional episode, but from Green Bay, Wisconsin, and Dave from Illinois. Let's go ahead and open up this tab of a Broncos Week 7 preview, Dave.
Yeah, sorry in advance for the noise. I have a 7-month-old black lab that's living his best life right now on the floor. So anyway, yeah, hopefully there's adjustments made going into the Broncos week because their defense is atrocious. So hopefully our offense can finally put up some points. Kind of pretty rocky beginning, right, to the season. I mean, we kind of knew there was going to be ups and downs, but there's some games that got away from us, and there's games that we kind of expected them to play out the way they played out. Heading into Denver, though, that's a team in turmoil. Like, that's a team you got to pounce on. It's a get back on track game, and if you lose this game, even though it's on the road, man, fan base is going to be spinning. 1265 front office might be spinning a little bit. This is definitely a game you got to have.
There's no such thing as like a true must win for a team that doesn't expect to have a deep playoff run, but I'm thinking of this one as about as much of a must win as you could have in Week 7. Otherwise, that you brought up last week, when does the dam break? And emotionally and everything else amongst the defense and the rest team, and now you bring up the front office and potentially some coaches being on the hot seat, whether they deserve to or not. But I would think this one you gotta have it facing a team that probably should be defeated, if not for that miraculous comeback against the Bears, and the Bears doing their thing and having like a Falcons 2017 Super Bowl collapse there in the second half. But yeah, this Broncos team, they're in full sell mode. I think they're one of the teams that are potentially tanking for Caleb at this time. And I mean, defensively, this has to be one that if we're going to put up some points and get over that 30 spot, this has to be the game to do that.
Yeah, you hope Aaron Jones is back. I haven't heard. I'm assuming he's good to go. I mean, he got his layoff on the bye week to be good to go, but hamstrings, who knows how that holds up? I mean, you can be rolling, get 5-6 carries, and it could tighten up again. So big problem right now is the offensive line even creating holes. A.J. Dillon last game got on a little bit of a roll, but there was still some tough sledding where there wasn't many wide open gaps to run through. There's a lot of A.J. Dillon kind of plowing into it and falling forward for 4 or 5 yards. Kudos to him, but that's not really Aaron Jones style either.
Yeah, and I was going to ask, so like with the bye week, it's a lot of reflection, self-scouting. I went back and watched the all of the games and the drives that stalled out and didn't lead to points. And a lot of times it was either holding penalties, false starts, us getting drilled in the backfield for a long loss, and nobody really has a good play for 3rd and 11 or 3rd and 12. I think it all at the root of our issues is that offensive line. So question for yourself, Dave, are you making changes for this game against the Broncos? Is there going to be a new starting 5? Are you going to shake things up? Or what are you doing to fix that? Hey, football, it still all starts in the trenches. And these past 2 games, it's been one-man wrecking crews just having their way with us.
Yeah. I think you still keep Tom at right tackle. I think that's just his natural spot right now. Walker is young, so you give him the one change I could see possibly happening is I'd like to see Sean Ryan take the snaps from Newman, I'm sorry. But I mean, you do also have Yash who could play left tackle instead of Walker, but I think they're just going younger right now. I mean, if you were to say that Walker and Yash are relatively comparable, play the younger guy, right? Get him more experience when this season's kind of. It's not like this is going to be a team that's going to roll through people, and we're going to be talking about a Super Bowl like this year. So get as many young guys on the field that can potentially be part of the building blocks for the next 2 or 3 years. Um, Offensive line's been a major problem. The big time playmakers all around, I'm talking as a whole, defense and on offense, just aren't getting their name called enough. I think part of the problem on offense too is the guys that had this offense rolling early on just aren't getting the ball enough, right? Like get the game flowing through Reed again, get it flowing through Dobbs again, and Aaron Jones. Like these guys just aren't getting the opportunities that they did before, and it's a little bit crowded now with Watson back and all that stuff. But I mean, there's times the last couple of games Dobbs was just completely irrelevant, and it wasn't because he wasn't getting open. It just was the call sheet or the ball wasn't finding him.
I think back to like some of the success that LaFleur's had over the years with this offense, and I can't help to think of like these crossing patterns that Alan Lazard used to get hit on a lot last year. And Aaron Rodgers brought it up with Devontae, or it's Jermichael Finley or Jordan Ellison. You want to get your playmakers the ball early and get them into the game, as opposed to what we did against the Raiders. And it was like the third quarter that Watson had his first target, even potentially Dawes. But Dave, do you think it's like defenses are playing zone and we're not able to run like rub routes and crossers? Or like I watched the Bears versus the Broncos, like I would try to follow suit for what their recipe was, because I know we have a better offense than them, but they ran a ton of slant plays to their wide receivers that got the ball out of Justin Fields' hands quick. But like, what do you think it's going to take to get Christian Watson the ball early, or Romeo Dobbs?
You want to see more like drag routes. You want to see more end arounds. Maybe even one of those plays where they jet sweep it and you just get Love to pitch it out in front. It's like one of those easy completion plays that you get. This offense just seems like they want to run the ball, but they can't really run the ball. And then when the run's not working, they want to take deep shots, right? There's no quick hitters. There's no in time, in rhythm stuff. That's just like, okay, we're comfortable with a 6-yard pass here. Like that's perfectly fine. And part of it could be just all around, just youth. Could just be guys just missing their assignment here and there, or it's just It's just conjointed. Like it's just kind of all around a mess. That I haven't been in love with play calling in a while here. I think the last play I truly liked was the Wicks play in Atlanta. That was like the last play that I was like, oh man, that's dialed up to perfection. Like everything else has just been a slog. And then when you get something going, you get the 10-yard penalty, you get the false start, you get the we're 2nd and 2 and Love takes a 9-yard sack.
It's a lot of clunkiness, which is carried over from last year. Like, let's not forget, I think we're averaging just about the same points on offense as what we were last year. And we didn't really get things clicking with like our deep game until the Dallas Cowboys game with Christian Watson. We were missing deep, and I want to say it was like to start the third quarter. It was up until like the Bills game last year before we could even score a touchdown. So the bright side is that we're doing much better to open up the third quarter, but the tale of two halves and what the first half looks like to the second half is completely day and night. I do have some good news though for yourself, Dave, and for Packer fans out there. When watching these highlights of the Denver Broncos and their games against, like, let's take the Chiefs, the Jets, the Bears, even the Commanders, we can have some success with the tight end position and Luke Musgrave potentially getting his first career NFL touchdown. Travis Kelce had over 100 yards through there against this Broncos defense. Cole Kmet had 2 touchdowns on the Broncos defense, along with Tyler Conklin from the Jets had his best game of the season. Same thing with the Commanders tight end, which I can't remember his name. I think it's Bates. But, hey, there's going to be an area for us to target and keep feeding him the ball, because when we do, good things happen.
Yeah.
With Luke Musgrave, I think that's a potential advantage that can work in our favor coming on Sunday.
Yeah, it's kind of like they get down LaFleur wants to roll out, like I like to call it, that 10-yard or 10-point play, and that's just not Love's game. Love's game has not been the deep shots. He's very inconsistent with it. The ball placement's just not quite there yet. So it's just like, okay, you're down 6. Let's just move it along, right? Let's do the checkdowns. Let's do the swing passes. Let's do an 8-yard crosser. Get someone out in space. Roll him out. I think he's terrific getting rolled out of the pocket, letting him kind of break down the defense and decide if he wants to take off or if he sees a window that he likes. But yeah, it's kind of, I'm disappointed with how it's turned out because I was really excited for this offense in the offseason of what it was going to look like. And I was like, everyone was talking about we're going to get a true Matt LaFleur offense, right? Well, it's pretty much the same as how Rodgers had it, except you just don't have Rodgers' Hall of Fame, decision-making or Hall of Fame accuracy on the deep shots.
It is. That's the X factor that Aaron Rodgers could be able to cover up some holes that if we lose to the Broncos and the season keeps heading south, people are going to be like, well, did Aaron Rodgers, help to cover up some of the weaknesses of Matt LaFleur's play calling ability? And I don't want to become that statistician or stat guy. They did mention when I was watching the local news yesterday and Packers Live with Wayne Larrabee that the Packers rank first in the NFL in the amount of pass plays that go down, like deep plays down the field. It's like an average of 10 yards per pass. We rank number 1 in the NFL. So to your point there with these 10-point plays, and I don't know if it just seemed to me, and I understand that training camp's vanilla and preseason, we were playing under center, it felt like, in those preseason games, a lot more with play action fakes and getting Love on the move, in rhythm. And a lot of those drives that he had, we got into a rhythm and got the ball moving down the field. But I don't want to say that we're taking too many deep shots because I think it's still appropriate at times, but we just haven't hit on any of these outside of there was like a Dobbs against the Saints. Jaden Reed we've hit on twice. The one time you were here in Detroit.
Yeah.
I'm still pretty. I have a lot of faith in this offense, and hey, all goes well, and Aaron Jones can do what he did against the Bears. That we could have a potential 35-point game on our hand, and we're all feeling good about ourselves again.
Yeah, and I mean, you can't really blame the defense the last couple of games because they've either been on the field or they really haven't allowed that many points where it's been disconcerting, right? I mean, they've allowed plays in key moments where you're just kind of scratching your head or you're just like, oh, we really needed to stop here. But I mean, Rasul's been balling out. There's, other guys that have done the same balling out, but it's just like if the offense isn't working, they're only putting up 14, 17 points a game. To Jair's point, I guess we can't allow a touchdown.
They got to start scoring touchdowns.
Yeah.
Dave, I have a quick question, though, on offense for you, because I know it's starting to swirl around Twitter, which is now called the X, and that's platform that you keep your finger on the pulse with. Within the Packer fan base and community, they're talking about Adam Stenavich, and ever since that he left, the offensive line has faced woes. Do you think that's been a big part of why our offensive line is struggling? And then with Big Dog being gone, and Big Bomb Tunyon was a respectable blocker. I don't think that Luke Musgrave and Tyler Kraft have been a good answer with blocking at the tight end position. So as far as to be able to pinpoint it, is it Stenavich? Is it missing Big Dog? Just two things I at least wanted to hit upon before talking about, which I think is game-winning defense.
I mean, tight ends historically have taken the longest for players to develop into superstars or at least very productive players. I'm not worried about that. I just think that's part of the youth movement of, you can't have a 40-year-old Mercedes Lewis come out there. Now, granted, he's awesome at what he does as kind of like a sixth offensive lineman, but they wanted to roll young. They wanted to get more like that Finley dynamic guy in there. Stenavich is a big change. I mean, that's to your point, yeah. But when you're successful, like the Packers were successful for 3 years in a row, you're going to have offensive coordinators leave, defensive coordinators leave, just different staffing guys that other teams pick up where you're going to have to fill that hole either internally or from the outside. And I think Stenovich is great at what he does in terms of the offensive line, and Matt LaFleur wanted to roll with him with the offensive coordinator. And you're seeing that to a certain extent with the offensive line, but I also think there's just been so many injuries at the offensive line, whether guys are on IR or they're just nicked up. And then they really didn't do all that much in the draft, right? They didn't replenish that, what they call jars on the shelf. So you're just rolling with what you have, and the weak points of the offensive line have gotten weaker. And then the strengths have also kind of deteriorated a little bit.
I feel like we have an offensive line full of tackles. We're like
they do that.
We're like 4 or 5 deep at the tackle position. Even like another name that we sort of haven't talked about, like Caleb Jones, the behemoth of a human. That there's another tackle. Like our jars on the shelf is deep at the tackle spot, but guard and center, and it's even potentially time to ask the real question of, is it time to move on from Josh Myers? But I at least had to get your take on the Stenovich sort of news circulating, and if Big Dog's absence has really been felt so far.
I mean, there's a lot of veterans that have left that have their absence has been felt one way or another, right? I mean, you could probably wish that you had Lazard back just for the run blocking, right? I mean, there's certain guys that brought certain qualities to this team over the last 5 years that are no longer on this team. But that was the excitement, right? That was the excitement of this offseason. We're kind of going into a new scheme with new players, and it was a fresh start, and I don't think anyone really expected this to be a 13-4 year right off the bat. This was going to be, what players are you going to build for the future, and what guys, and what roster spots or positions you're going to have to look hard at, whether that's free agency or the draft.
Here's a solution, though. Kurt Bankert, our former practice squad quarterback, we just need to turn either play calling over to him, or we need to incorporate more of his Madden plays that he streams with on a weekly basis. So, Dave, you could get called up too. We're going to ask for some of your patented Madden plays to be worked into what Kurt Bankert calls is an outdated offense by Matt LaFleur and their frosty relationship.
Yeah, I don't play Madden much anymore on that note, but
here's another good news. I think we need some sort of pick me ups for Packer fans at this very moment. That we've had, like, it feels like a month of like 1 or 2 games. Like the schedule is also with these 2 losses and things being so spread out that people are maybe checking out a little bit, and it won't help if we suffer a loss on Sunday. But here's the good news I was going to bring up on defense. Yeah, I think Rasul's playing phenomenal ball. Like you mentioned, I don't know what his PFF grade is, but I know it was really high, or one of the top guys against the Raiders. Like, outside of that touchdown that he allowed against Detroit, he's played extremely well, and he'll have some more opportunities to get his hands on the ball. And then get this, our guy Kenny Clark already has 3 sacks on the season. His all-time high is 6 for the year. And these past 2 years, he's only had 4 respectively. In 22 and then in 21. So he's on pace for a career year at that defensive tackle spot. And maybe it's showing that he is getting some help with Devontae Wyatt and your guy, Carl Brooks, and TJ Slayton picking up the snap count.
Yeah, there's some guys that I love watching play. I'm in the camp that I like Rasul Douglas's game more than Jair's, especially the last year and a half. I've liked how Douglas attacks the physicality of it and the pass breakups, and willing to give up an 8-yard completion if that means a quarter and a half later being able to jump that same route and pick it off. Like, he just has that aggressive nature in him that I like. But until last game, Preston was mostly missing in action. Like, there's just certain guys that they'll show it for 2 or 3 quarters and they'll disappear for a game and a half.
And then what about Rashawn too? Do we need to let him fully off the leash and ramp up his snap count too, with us being going to be now 6 games into it?
Yeah, I'm never gonna question the Green Bay medical staff or anyone's medical history at this point. They clearly have a game plan. The Packers are notoriously cautious with this type of stuff. You can't maybe even they're probably still working out a negotiation long term with Rashawn. They don't want to risk any setbacks with him health wise or for the future on that stuff.
Flashback to
But
Bach.
yeah, but let's roll into kind of how you see this game playing out, predictions, and whatnot, so we could wrap this up with a nice bow.
Yeah, 100%. And just for injury's sake, I sure hope that Quay Walker is back to play on defense. Devondre Campbell, that's at this point looking like a one-year wonder. As for predictions for myself, I think if Aaron Jones plays, we're going to make a pretty conceited effort to get him the ball while still being mindful of snaps. And he's going to be in on the first drive with the script, and we're going to work our way down the field for 7 points. And I think that's really going to help to give a sigh of exhale to the Packer fan base. To Aaron Rodgers' point, he gave a bit of a relax that Jordan Love's going to be here for a while, and he faced the same thing as a starter. So I think with Aaron Jones being back and us finally getting points in that first drive is going to be huge and will lead to a Packers win on Sunday late afternoon slot. My score prediction for the game is going to be 31-24 Packers.
Wow.
If the Bears can put up a 28 spot on this squad. I know that the Chiefs did struggle though. The Chiefs only put up 19, and they have a true bend but don't break defense. They move the ball down the field to the red zone, settled for a ton of field goals. But now they let Frank Clark go. They're in sell mode. Yeah, I'll stick to it. 31-24 Packers win.
All right, I'm going a loss with this one. I just have that feeling off the bye. We're still going to be sluggish for whatever reason. I'm going 23-13. I think the offense has a really hard time rolling for. It's going to be more shoot themselves in the foot type scenario. Denver's does not have a good defense at all. And I think people are going to start clamoring a little bit of what the hell is going on with this offense.
It's going to be a fire sale if that happens.
I know.
Can you imagine what the feedback is going to be if we come in true LaFleur fashion, you take a look at that 49ers game, the Buccaneers game after the bye week. We're notorious for not coming out strong in these
going out west.
Yeah.
Being at an increased elevation.
All signs point towards it.
Yeah,
Dave, I'll say this because maybe I've been kind of in the homer camp. Hey, our season predictions have held up though so far.
Yeah,
I went back and watched the tape. Both of us predicted that 2-3 start, so we're good there. Now, if we lose this game, then maybe I'm hopping off of hey, I'm looking through everything with rose-colored glasses, and the next game we got him mentality.
I mean, off-season predictions are great, and you can stick to your guns and stuff like that, but then you got to kind of look at the tape or look at live and see what you're seeing. And right now, I'm not seeing a whole lot of, I'm just not seeing them moving the ball on anyone.
Dave, I hope you're eating crow come this time next week.
That's fine. I'll be more than happy. I'll be more than happy to predict a loss and have it be a win.
Those are the best ones to have.
So.
Any parting words for this Packer fan base that is feeling influx? Any sort of galvanizing words for our faithful out there that have to stick through it this season?
We need Russell Wilson to have a vintage Seattle Seahawks at Lambeau Russell Wilson game, except he's in Denver.
Your 2016 game, that was five interceptions.
Yeah,
and I feel like I looked up a ton of stats for this one. I just don't want to have anecdotal statements when we come to this show. I want it to be backed by science for what my brother-in-law brought up. You don't want to know what we got into on Tuesday night because I'm like, we need to run more of a Shanahan offense. He's like, Well, you need to go back through, watch all of the plays, and be able to make either a 1 or a 0, whether it was a Shanahan offense. We spent like 3 hours doing it. Anyways,
Holy crap.
yeah, it was a lot as a true scientific experiment, but we can get after Russell Wilson on Sunday. He is now the third most sacked quarterback in the NFL with 19. To put that in perspective, Jay Love's at 10. So there's going to be some opportunities for our pass rushers to get home.
Every time I think the Packers are going to scheme something up that makes perfect sense for them to attack a team, that is not how like we win, right? Or lose or do whatever. Like every single time I'm like, oh, our front seven should just whoop on the opposing offensive line. And then for whatever reason, our defensive line gets stonewalled. It's like, okay, well, that's not how I expected that one to go. Or I'm like, oh, our offensive line should have no problem blocking up their guys. Like Love will have all the time in the world. And then Love gets sacked like 4 times. And I'm just like, all right, that's perfect.
We've had 2 weeks to prepare for this one, though.
Which makes me even more nervous.
Are we gonna overthink it?
All right, I will see you Sunday, or talk to you at least Sunday, whether that's on here or through text or however we go through our normal channels on this stuff.
We will be here until Sunday, Dave.
All right, we got a long wait. It's 3:25 game.
Yep. I'll try not to pour them on it until then.
I might be drinking heavily before and after and during.
Yes, it's not. Yeah, just all of Sunday.
All right, man. You take it easy.
Later. Cheers, guys.